You may have felt like you were having heart palpitations, even sweating, feeling nausea, and feeling dizziness. When we don't know what it is, it can even scare us and frighten us even more. So today, let's talk about what a panic attack is and how to know if you're dealing with a panic attack right now. Hey there friends, Ashley Berges back today, and today I'm going to be talking about panic attacks. You know, when we're having a panic attack, usually it comes up pretty suddenly, pretty randomly, and it can cause us to feel scared and frightened because we usually don't know exactly what we're dealing with. So let's talk about what makes up a panic attack, so if this happens to you, the fear factor isn't so bad and you actually understand what you're actually dealing with. Because a panic attack can occur very randomly and it can be after exposed to various events or various triggers, we need to understand exactly what it means when we're having a panic attack. Because the more we know, the more educated we know, maybe the fear factor will be just a little bit less. So let's go into the symptoms of a panic attack. The first thing that you might experience is that you might be beginning to breathe very rapidly, like shortness of breath. And this can always lead us to panic quite a bit because we don't know why this is happening, and that begins to actually increase what we believe to increase our heart rate. So the next thing that you're going to experience is heart palpitations, or what we think the heart palpitations are. So we're going to be feeling as though that our heart is like jumping. And that's going to also cause some fear because we're going to think that we might be having a heart attack. Now definitely, if there is any symptoms and you might feel like you're having a heart attack, do not hesitate to go to the hospital or to call 911 immediately, because we don't want to take the chance that this could be a heart attack. But if it's coupled with these other symptoms, you could be actually experiencing a panic attack. The next thing that you might experience is nausea. You feel as though you're about to get sick. Another is experiencing dizziness, almost like you have to sit down because it's almost like you can't focus properly. You also might even feel smothered, almost like somebody is sitting on top of you. And that's what makes you kind of breathe heavier because you feel like you can't get enough air in. Oftentimes, because we're experiencing all these symptoms at once, we actually feel like we're dying, or we feel like we're being suffocated, like the air is being taken out of us. And last but not least, because of that chest pain coupled with these other symptoms, we may actually feel even more so that we're having a heart attack. And that can also lead us to experience more panic, right? Because when you're feeling like you're actually having a heart attack, you're scared, you're frightful. And so that actually increases and heightens your senses to believe that you're really, that your life is in danger. And so anytime that we feel that way, panic is going to be even increased even more. So that's something to really look for. And by the way, many people will experience 1 or 2 panic attacks in their life triggered by a situation or circumstance that takes place. However, there's many folks out there that will experience multiple attacks, and that's something that you definitely want to seek a medical health professional to really work with and decide, is this a panic disorder? Is this anxiety? Is this depression? Or is there multiple or dual diagnosis that needs to be looked at to be understood? Because sometimes it could be something as simple as walking through what triggered it, also coupled with maybe anti-anxiety medication or depression medication, as well as cognitive behavioral therapy and work with a therapist to talk things out. One thing that I want you to think about is that panic attacks can actually cause phobias, okay? And what I mean is that we begin to feel and think irrational fears about the stuff that took place, the circumstances and the situations prior to the actual panic attack, okay? And what's happening here is that we don't want to experience another one of those panic attacks, right? We're trying to avoid that. That's what we're doing. So when we're trying to avoid that, we try to avoid all the things that happened leading up to that panic attack. So let me give you a good example. For example, let's say that you had a panic attack and right before that you had just gotten to a concert. The concert was really packed, a lot of people, probably it was warm in there, and you began to feel nausea, dizziness, those heart palpitations, and all these things started kind of happening. You thought you were dying, you were experiencing this. You might actually start avoiding what? Concerts. You might start avoiding crowds, right? And this can turn into agoraphobia, okay? And this is something that I really want you to think about because we need to kind of step back and understand that something did trigger this panic attack, but do we need to avoid certain things in our life? Agoraphobia is a type of anxiety disorder in which you fear or avoid places or situations that might cause you panic, right? And that can make you feel trapped, helpless, embarrassed, fear. And so that's what happens a lot of times is we experience this panic attack. and we remember what all happened leading up to the attack. We don't want to feel this again. We don't want to get triggered again, and we fear that we might get triggered again if experiencing the same type of circumstances, and so we begin to avoid all the circumstances that led up to it, right? And that's sometimes where people actually get stuck, where they have that fear of even leaving the home, and especially the fear of doing any of those activities because they just don't want to experience it again. And so that's something that we really need to think about when we're dealing with panic attacks, is because there comes a time where we start limiting the amount of activities that we do, and it begins to get in the way of our quality of life, okay? And we begin to stop living our life because of so many different fears that have become so large in our mind, and we're fearful that we're going to feel that trap feeling again, that helpless feeling again, and we're scared that we're actually going to feel those heart palpitations, and we don't know what to do about it. I hope this video has helped you to understand the basics of a panic attack, what a panic attack is. So if you're dealing with a panic attack, or a friend of yours or a family member is, you can honestly understand what's taking place. One of the big things that we want to do is to calm the person that we're dealing with. So if they're dealing with a panic attack, you want to try to calm them down, sit them down, just get them to relax first off. And also to understand that they are probably dealing with a panic attack, because when we feel like we're dealing with something that's going to really hurt us, it is so overwhelming and so frightening, and because we don't understand, it even makes us panic more, right? So remember that panic attacks are scary, they are frightening, but they're not physically harmful. They're physically harmless, okay? So remember that. However, when you're in the middle of a panic attack, it doesn't feel very harmless at all. So we're doing a second video on panic attacks. We're going to be talking about what causes panic attacks, the cause of it, as much as we know scientifically, as well as even more in-depth symptoms, so that you can actually see, because sometimes these symptoms are there, but there's other symptoms as well that can almost take us off target from what we're dealing with, okay? And so I want to talk about that, because I had a panic attack a few years ago, and I had these symptoms, but I had other symptoms that were making me question what I was dealing with, and it was actually stressing me out even more. And so I want to help you with that, so we'll go through a really in-depth list of symptoms so you can understand that. And also, so if somebody else is dealing with that, you can help them to understand what they're dealing with and be a calming voice of reason for them as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and I love it when you subscribe. And any comments that you would like to leave on this video, I would love to read your comments and your perspective, because you're helping us make this channel better. And it's about what you're interested in us talking about, because that's very important that we keep the conversation going, and that this conversation actually helps you to live a better life. And if you also like this video, please give us a like here on the video as well. I hope the video has helped you. Please share this with family and friends, and don't forget to live your true life.